So thank you for joining me today. Today I'm going to interview you. This is David Reider. He's actually here with Berlin, Patton & Ebling in St. Pete. I think you told me earlier that you are the real estate attorney of all of St. Pete. Is that correct?
I do wish that I was the only attorney in St. Pete that does real estate, but I am the one that is the head of our St. Pete office.
Great. Okay. Tell us a little bit about what you do here. What is your specialty?
I do transactional work. I focus mainly on doing closings and litigation referrals. So if you have an issue with your closing, I'm the person you come to. And if you have a closing, I'm the person you come to.
Right. Hopefully you have lots of closings, right?
Yeah.
I know currently right now we're working on a deal, for example, where I'm the listing agent and I also brought the buyers. So you're going to help both people get that transaction to close smoothly?
So what we do is we represent the side that chooses title. In that particular instance, it was a buyer choose. So we represent the buyer, but we can assist in the transaction and handle all of the closing aspects of it. So we will if there's permit issues, we'll let everybody know what's going on. We'll represent the party that chose title to let them know, hey, we're going to be working to close out this permit issue. We're going to be working on this title issue and file an objection.
Which we're working on now.
Yep. So anything like that, that's what we handle. It's nice because unlike a typical closing title agent, we can represent a party and we can be there to get that taken care of for them.
Perfect. Okay. So what I like to do in these series is basically I like to get to know why we're going to use you. I think a lot of people out there, they don't know why are we going to use you. What is it that got you into this? You know, what led you into being an attorney? What was it that?
I wish there was some fantastic story about why I became an attorney. I actually wanted to go to med school. So I became an attorney after having many of soul-searching moments and realizing that medical school probably wasn't for me. And I went and had a chance to go to New York Law School and spend 3 years in the city. Came back down to where I was born here in downtown St. Pete area.
Thanks. So you're a native.
Yeah, I am a native. I was born right across the street at Bayfront Hospital here. Wow. So I've been here basically my entire life. But after realizing that law was probably for me and I needed to be in Florida because my family's down here, I had a chance over a decade ago to start working in real estate. And quite frankly, I loved it. I have a background in microbiology and did a little patent work on the side to kind of scratch that itch. But otherwise, I think real estate's interesting. I'm happy that I don't have to see too much of the inside of a courtroom anymore. I get to do mostly just talking with people and having a good time as they get their first home or get a chance to sell and move on to where bigger and better things.
So you were telling me earlier that you do radio too. You want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so we've had a couple of invites to do radio interviews. It's a little bit more harrowing for me because there's no edit process, but it is nice to be able to take consumers' questions and see how we can assist, especially in the real estate world, get a chance for them to talk to a real estate attorney that they might not otherwise have a chance to.
Nice. Okay, that's a good thing. So I want to know why you? Why are we going to use you? Why are people out there in Florida and St. Pete, why are they going to call you?
So aside from the fact that I'm a native here in St. Pete and know pretty much a lot of the people that are on the council and know the processes that are local to the area, it's nice to have somebody that has experience and actually cares about your transaction. As I try to let people know, I'm here to help and try to make everybody in the process feel at ease. It's not always that easy to do because sometimes there are some conflicts and we have some issues in closings. But I want everybody I want everybody involved in the closing to know that there's somebody that's competent, that cares, and is going to do their best to be responsive and make sure that they're not left out to dry in that closing.
Awesome. So I will say that the reason I chose to work with you is because I like that you were very quick, you were efficient to tackle an issue. You gave me a solution to it. It wasn't just, oh, sorry that happened. It was an immediate correction, which I think is good. I think a lot of people these days, things happen and stuff gets lost in the wind and it's like, well, what do you do to fix it? And there's no solution to fix things. People just say to me, oh, it is what it is. And it's like, no, it really isn't. There needs to be a solution. So you were very good about that. And I like that you're accessible and I like that you're intelligent. So I was very excited to do that. But tell me this, I want to talk a little bit about liens. So being that I do designs and I do builds too, I deal with a lot of subcontractors. I deal with a lot of we talked about this being kind of blooperish, so this is a raw live video that we're doing, but you get a lot of people that kind of are arrogant in that business. And the funny thing that we were talking about, they were joking about, is there's people who will say, well, either you're going to do this or you're going to pay this, or I'm going to put an LEAN on the property. And I always laugh. I think, well, if you can't spell the words, you probably don't have the equipped ability to put a lien on the property. So tell us a little bit about that. And I guess kind of one of the examples that I want to ask is, there's a difference between being homesteaded and there's a difference between not being homesteaded. So I'd like you to kind of touch base on that. And I'd like you to tell the viewers, whoever watches this, what are things that can have a lien put on them, and in what ways can people not put liens on subcontractors, and what ways can they not put a lien on? If you want to touch on that.
Perfect. So when we deal with homesteaded property, what we're talking about mainly is the protections that are offered to husbands and wives, or any sort of couple that is together with the homestead property, meaning their primary residence. Mm-hmm. So contractors and creditors in general cannot take out a lien and they can't foreclose a lien on that property without notice, and if it's only on one party. So that has to wait until it's no longer homesteaded. So let's say you then move out and you rent it out. Well, guess what? Then a lien can be attached. Yeah. But as long as you have your homestead protections in the state of Florida anyway, there is, it's pretty well known. I mean, O.J. Simpson came down here for a reason for homestead protections, right? So we have pretty expansive protections on that. The big question there that I would pose back, you were talking about builders, it's very hard to homestead something that's not been built yet. You can't homestead vacant land. So what happens with a lot of subcontractors is they can get that notice of commencement down before you've homesteaded it.
CO is in place.
Yep, and then you're gonna have an issue. So you can have, even though it may be homesteaded later on, if that notice of commencement is dated prior, you can have a little bit more complications. It's a long way of saying the attorney answer of maybe we can get to where you need to be, but for the most part, there's solutions.
They also have to file that NOC within a certain period of time.
Yes,
so if you want to tell people about that, how that
so
works.
An NOC is only good for 1 year after the date of filing, and they have to file, I believe it's within 90 days unless they've changed that by statute. But yeah, so they have to get that filed, and then what will happen is that notice of commencement will allow a lien to then date back to that notice of commencement if they file the lien within a year. What typically happens is that the notice of commencement either disappears after a year because they didn't refile and the work was done, or when they get fully paid, if you're doing a closing with us, we will do what's called a termination of the notice of commencement, in which the contractor does an affidavit stating that they were fully paid, and you as the owner would state that I fully paid this person. We record that at the time of the closing, and the notice of commencement's gone. So there's no threat of a lien.
Perfect. Okay. So let's say that you're a little old lady and you have your house tiled, and the guy comes in and he charges you more than what you guys agreed upon. He didn't write up any kind of an agreement. There's no invoice of an agreement. There's no written contract, no nothing. And at the end this happens, he says, hey, you know what? You actually owe me $2,000 more because I bought some more supplies and that wasn't something you agreed to. Can that contractor, for all the people watching, can that contractor then put a lien on because you owe him extra money that wasn't agreed upon?
He's going to have a very difficult time going and putting that lien on. However, here's your issue, what we see a lot of times, and this goes in general with any of our legal questions. You have what we call the legal right, and you have the real world. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, that contractor can cause you enough of a headache that you're going to do whatever you can to get rid of him when the attorney's fees do add up if you're having to pay hourly. So if he's only wanting $2,000 and he's threatening, while he doesn't have a right, if he does go to court and tries to file something, you're going to want to get an attorney involved, and you're probably going to decide, all right, I'll give him the $250, which is half of what an attorney's hour will be. And unfortunately, this is why more and more of those types of guys exist, is that they're getting a little bit of money here, a little bit of money there, just through those threats. So they may not be getting that full amount. But I can tell you the legal right. Yeah, I can tell you the legal right, the legal answer. I can also tell you the real world application. We see it a lot in escrows, unfortunately, where somebody doesn't have a right to an escrow, but the escrow is not substantial enough to get attorneys involved, that you just figure out a way to work that out.
Right.
And it's unfortunate, but that's
okay.
That's
one last question about that is, do you want to tell people what the difference is between a memorandum and a lien?
So I will be honest, I don't know where you're going with on that memorandum part. So I haven't seen somebody come up with a memorandum before.
So if somebody puts a memorandum on a piece of property, explain what that means basically.
I've never seen a memorandum here. Really? I will be honest, in 10 years, I've never seen somebody try to put a memorandum out there. Is it like the random people that
You need to be in my deal that I have right now, then I have another one where there's a memorandum. And they owe them money. So I can't get too far into it because we're not closed yet. But there's a whole bunch of liens that are filed and money that's owed and code for enforcement violations. And what one person did is they signed with multiple different realtors. All of the realtors now have a right to some sort of legal money. One person, there's a lady that's on the East Coast that actually signs people's listing agreements, and she holds them into place for 40 years.
Yep. So I know about that issue. That's
She's being sued right now by the city attorney.
That's going to be one of those. So they
Yeah,
they have issues in underwriting, right? So when that comes back,
we can't close until
you can't close, but you'll get through litigation on that aspect. You can also possibly do quiet title actions on that to get rid of them. It's going to be costly, but yes, there are people that were pulling stunts like that.
Very exciting.
That came up within the last year with that particular person that essentially.
It's like a Ponzi scheme.
Well, yeah, what they were doing
Watch your
was
listing agreements.
Yeah, what they were doing was they would get those people, and then it literally was a 40-year listing agreement essentially, and then they were trying to make.
It's done on a lot of elderly people too, which is even worse. I think that goes into the senior abuse law too.
Yes.
It's senior abuse law. Mm-hmm.
So in that instance, they were creating what they were trying to create their own little legal concept there. And as you can see with the lawsuits, it's probably not going to.
It's a pipeline of business for 40 years. Yeah. So, but what she did is she put a memorandum, in place. So, okay, well, cool. So that was exciting.
Yeah, I'm not sure that that's necessarily a statutory way like a lien is. Mm-hmm. I don't know how well her memorandum will hold up.
Well, she has to be paid before we can close. So it took a closing that should have happened 2 weeks ago, and we're finally getting ready to close tomorrow. So I'm very.
Yeah, that's good. At least you got it to closing, so that's good.
Exactly.
Yeah.
She got paid, so it's sad. So that's going to be after closing. That's going to be, the client's job at that point then to file a suit.
Yeah, I would file that. I would
jump on the bandwagon with the.
With the class action and everything on that, so. For sure.
Okay, so last question. Tell us something about you that we don't know.
All right. I am a lucky survivor of having brain surgery when I was 15.
Wow.
And I have...
Thank goodness.
Yeah, it wasn't cancer or anything, but it's been one of those formative actions that happens. One of the reasons why I tried to go to medical school was because I wanted to become like the doctors that helped me out. To this day, I still really...
You're going to make me teary on the camera.
Yeah, I really appreciate everything that they've done.
Yeah. Wow.
And now I am over 20 years removed from it, and still doing good. I have my own little kid and wife, so happy life, happy wife. Yep. It's fantastic. So
nice.
Yep.
I really enjoyed getting to meet you, and I'm looking forward to working with you and having more deals, and I wish you great success in 2023, and thanks for sharing.
Thank you. It was a pleasure coming on.
Thank you for joining us today. I am really excited that I got to introduce everyone to David Reider today at Berlin Patent and Ebling here in St. Pete. If you guys want to get in contact with me, again, I'm Jamie Zeigler with Preferred Shore, and my information is going to be down below, and I will also share David's as well. Have a great day.